In tonight's stories, 4 terrors take shape. A company's miracle cure for grief turns a father into something monstrous. A girl wakes from a coma to discover her brother has been keeping her alive only to eat her. A new home echoes with nightly knocks from something that wants in. And a navigation app shows roads and deaths that shouldn't exist, including your own. 4 tales of desperation, hunger, and horrors that find their way into your life. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. 1. A company sent me a cure for my father's grief. When the bottle ran out, their final automated message told me to kill him. My life has been on hold for a year. A year ago, I was supposed to be moving out, starting my own life. I had an apartment lined up, a job waiting. Then, my mother died, and my world, along with my father's, simply stopped. She was the sun in his sky. They were one of those couples you see in old movies, completely, utterly devoted to each other. When she died, suddenly, from an aneurysm, the light just went out of him. The grief was a physical thing, a crushing, heavy blanket that smothered our entire house. At first, it was what you'd expect. Crying, a refusal to talk about her, or an inability to talk about anything else. He stopped going to work. He stopped seeing his friends. I made the decision to stay. I couldn't leave him like that. He was my dad. I put my own life on pause, telling myself it would just be for a few months until he got back on his feet. But he never did. The grief didn't lessen. It metastasized. It started with him not eating. He just pushed the food around his plate. Then, he stopped getting out of bed. The vibrant, strong man who had taught me how to ride a bike and build a bookshelf was replaced by a hollow-eyed ghost who just laid there, staring at the ceiling, wasting away. We went to doctors. So many doctors. They ran every test imaginable. Physically, they said, he was fine. There was nothing wrong with him. It's psychological, one of them told me, with a detached, clinical sympathy. Severe, prolonged grief reaction. He needs therapy, maybe medication. We tried that. The therapist would come to the house, and my dad would just stare at them, his eyes empty, refusing to speak a single word. He wouldn't take the pills. He was just giving up. He was letting himself die, following her into the dark. It's been a year now. He's a skeleton, a fragile collection of bones under a thin, papery skin. He gets his nutrients through an IV drip that I learned how to set up myself. He hasn't spoken a word in 6 months. I spend my days changing his sheets, cleaning him, watching his chest rise and fall with shallow, ragged breaths, and just waiting for the end. My own life has become a ghost, a half-remembered dream of a future I was supposed to have. Then, 3 weeks ago, the phone rang. It was a private number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Good morning, a cheerful, professional-sounding woman's voice said. Am I speaking with the caretaker of... She said my father's full name. A cold knot of unease tightened in my stomach. Who is this? I asked. I'm calling from a private biomedical research firm, she said, her voice smooth as silk. We specialize in unique solutions for profound psychological trauma. We've been reviewing your father's medical case, and we believe we can help. I felt a surge of anger. My father's medical case? That's confidential. How did you get that? This is illegal. I'm reporting you. I understand your concern, she said, her tone never wavering. And I do apologize for the unorthodox nature of this call. Our methods of data acquisition are proprietary. But please, before you hang up, just consider your father. The prognosis is not good, is it? The doctors have given up. They're just managing his decline. He's going to die. You know that. We are offering you a chance. A cure. Her words cut through my anger like a scalpel. She was right. He was dying. I was just his hospice nurse, waiting for the inevitable. "What kind of cure?" I asked, my voice a hoarse whisper. "Our treatment is based on the principle of sensory anchoring," she explained. "We believe that in cases of extreme grief, the psyche becomes untethered. It needs a familiar, powerful anchor to pull it back to reality. We can create that anchor. And, as our treatment is still in the final trial phase, we would be happy to provide it to you, completely free of charge." Free, a cure. It sounded too good to be true. It sounded like a scam. But I looked through the doorway, at the skeletal figure lying still and silent in the dim light of the bedroom, and the desperation, a feeling I had been living with for so long, won out over my skepticism. What do I have to do?" "It's a very simple process," the woman said. "We just need a biological sample from the object of his grief, your mother. Something she had close contact with. Something that would retain a strong, personal essence. A hairbrush is ideal. A piece of well-worn jewelry. A favorite article of clothing." It was morbid. It was ghoulish, but I was beyond caring. And what do I do with it? She gave me an address, a P.O. box in another state, and told me to mail the item there. That was it. "Once we receive the sample, we can synthesize the anchor. You should receive the treatment within a week." That night, I went into my mother's closet for the first time since she died. I had kept her room exactly as she had left it. A perfect, heartbreaking time capsule. The air was thick with her scent, a faint mix of her favorite perfume, and something that was just her. I opened her jewelry box. On the top, lying on a bed of velvet, was her old, silver-backed hairbrush. I could still see a few of her long, dark hairs tangled in the bristles. My hand was shaking as I picked it up. It felt like a grave desecration. I put it in a padded envelope and mailed it the next day. A week later, a small, unmarked cardboard box arrived. There was no return address. Inside, nestled in a bed of black foam, was a single, small, elegant perfume bottle. It was made of a dark, violet-colored glass with a simple silver atomizer. There was no label. Tucked alongside it was a small, folded piece of paper with a single line of instructions, printed in a clean, sterile font. Administer 1 spray into the air near the subject, once per day. That was it. I opened the bottle, my curiosity overriding my unease. I sprayed a tiny amount onto my wrist. The scent that bloomed in the air was beautiful. It was a complex floral, with notes I couldn't quite place. And underneath it, there was something else. A warmth, a softness, a scent that was so deeply, achingly familiar, it made my chest tighten. It was my mother. It wasn't just her perfume, it was her. The scent of her skin after she'd been working in the garden. The faint smell of the vanilla she used in her baking. The very essence of her presence. It was all there, perfectly, impossibly recreated in this little bottle. It was a liquid memory. I went into my father's room. He was lying there, the same as always, his eyes open but seeing nothing. I held the bottle a few feet from his face and, with a trembling hand, I pressed the atomizer. A fine, fragrant mist settled in the air around him, and his eyes focused. It happened instantly. The vacant, empty stare was gone. His eyes, for the first time in a year, locked onto mine. A flicker of recognition, of confusion. He took a breath, a deep, rattling breath that was stronger than any I had heard him take in months. "Son?" he whispered, his voice a dry, cracking rasp from disuse. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. I had a terrible dream," he said, his eyes scanning the room. Where's your mother?" It was the most painful question he could have asked, but it was a question. He was back. The next few weeks were a miracle, a resurrection. Every morning, I would give him a single spray of the perfume, and every day, he got stronger. He started eating solid food again. He sat up. He started walking, at first with a walker, then on his own. The color returned to his face. He gained weight. The hollow-eyed ghost was gone, replaced by my father. He cried. He apologized, over and over, for the year I had lost, for the burden he had been. We talked. We mourned my mother together, properly, for the first time. Our house, which had been a tomb, was filled with life again. I was so full of a profound, grateful joy. The strange company, the ghoulish methods, it didn't matter. They had given me my father back. But as the initial euphoria faded, I started to notice the new routine that had formed. The perfume was the linchpin of his existence. He couldn't function without it. He would wake up in the morning, groggy and disoriented, his eyes holding a trace of that old, vacant look. He would be listless, confused. Then, I would administer the spray. The effect was immediate. His eyes would clear, his posture would straighten, and he would be himself again. It was like winding up a clockwork man every morning. He was completely, utterly dependent on it. It was an addiction, but it was a life-saving one. Or so I thought. Yesterday morning, I picked up the bottle. It felt light. I gave it a shake. It was almost empty. There was maybe 1, 2 sprays left. A cold, hard knot of panic formed in my stomach. I had tried calling the company's number before, just to thank them, but it had always gone to a disconnected tone. I gave my dad his morning spray. I had to tell him. "Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. The medicine, it's almost gone." The color drained from his face. The cheerful, recovered man I had been living with for the past month vanished, replaced by a stranger. His eyes went wide with a raw, animal panic. "No," he whispered. No, that can't be. I need it. I need her." "It's okay," I said, trying to soothe him. "You're better now. You're strong. You don't need it anymore." "You don't understand," he roared, his voice suddenly full of a terrifying strength. He grabbed my arm, his grip like a vice. "I can't lose her again. I can't." He was a different person. This wasn't grief. This was a raw, desperate, violent need. A junkie's rage. He spent the rest of the day in a state of agitated, paranoid terror, pacing the house, constantly asking me if I'd found more. This morning, I gave him the last spray. He calmed down instantly, but the moment was bittersweet. I knew that in 24 hours, the monster would be back. I spent all day trying the company's number, over and over. Finally, someone picked up. It wasn't a person. It was a cold, automated, female voice. "Thank you for calling," the voice said, its tone flat and detached. "Due to a recent government investigation and a cessation of our operations, this company is now permanently closed. We are no longer able to provide our services or products." My heart sank. "No, please," I whispered at the recording. "If you are a former client," the voice continued, "and your treatment supply has been depleted, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. We are unable to synthesize any further doses. It has been noted in our late-stage trials that discontinuing the treatment can result in acute psychological distress and unpredictable, aggressive behavior in the subject. The sensory anchor becomes a psychosomatic necessity. The subject will not recover. Their decline will be rapid and irreversible." The recording paused for a beat. "We strongly advise you to secure your own safety. If you are unable to contain the subject, our final recommendation is euthanasia. We are sorry for your loss. Have a nice day." The line went dead. I'm writing this now from my bedroom. I have the door barricaded with my dresser. My father is in the living room. Or, the thing that used to be my father is in the living room. The perfume wore off about an hour ago. I can hear him. He's destroying the place. I hear the crash of furniture, the shattering of glass. And I hear his voice, screaming. He's not screaming my name. He's screaming hers. He's screaming for his wife, for her scent, for the anchor that is no longer there. A few minutes ago, he started throwing himself against my bedroom door. The wood is splintering. He's stronger than I could have imagined. This isn't grief, it's something else. The cure didn't just bring him back. It twisted him into something that cannot live without the object of his grief. The recording's final words are echoing in my head. Our final recommendation is euthanasia. Kill him. Kill my own father. I don't know what to do. The police, they'll just see a sick, violent old man. They'll take him to a psychiatric hospital. He could hurt someone. He could hurt himself. He's in so much pain. A pain so much worse than the quiet fading he was in before. Is it the merciful thing to do? The banging on the door is getting louder. The wood is cracking. He's going to get in soon. I don't have much time. What do I do? What in God's name do I do? 2. I just woke up from a 6-year coma. My brother has good news and bad news. I didn't notice the scary-looking rash on my back until PE class. Lila Thatcher. Miss Stokes, our PE teacher, pulled me aside. She let out a sharp intake of breath when she pulled up my shirt. Sweetie, are you allergic to anything? My parents were immediately called, but by the time I was lying in the back seat of my mom's car, throwing up all over myself, my body scalding hot, I thought I was dying. Jonas, my 7-year-old brother, was in my peripheral vision, his eyes wide, bottom lip wobbling. Is Lila going to be okay? My brother's voice became waves crashing in my ears. It's okay, Dad kept saying. If meningitis is caught early, they'll be able to treat her. Dad's voice collapsed into waves once more, and I imagined it, a perfect beach with pearly white sand and crystal blue water. I could feel the sand between my toes, ice-cold waves lapping at my feet. I slept for a while, half aware of Mom by my side and fresh flowers she was holding. She told me stories. Jonas turned 8 years old and apparently had a pool party, but then the stories stopped. The flowers next to my bed started to smell. I spent a long time trying to open my eyes, but when I did, my body was numb. Someone was cooking something. I could smell it. Stew, maybe soup. It smelled fucking amazing. My gaze was glued to the ceiling, a burst light bulb. The flowers next to my bed were gone, my room lit up in warm candlelight. It was so beautiful. I tried to move, but my body was numb, and my diagnosis came back to haunt me. Meningitis. Did that mean I was paralyzed? Hey, Lila. The voice was familiar, but older. There was a kid, maybe 13, standing in front of me. I recognized his thick brown hair and glasses. Jonas. He was so grown up. His clothes, however, were alarming. Jonas was wearing the tattered remains of a sweater and jeans, and oddly, what looks like a crown of weeds, sitting on top of his head. Standing with him were 2 other kids. The girl had a shaved head, and the guy had one eye. Jonas stepped forward with a sad smile. I did everything I could to protect you, he whispered, and I started to see it. Years of abandonment and trauma in half-lidded, almost feral eyes. When the adults died, it was just us, and we managed to survive for years with what we had. I fought to keep you safe from Harry's clan, who saw you as... He swallowed, and that smell got stronger. Meat. But I'm really hungry, sis, he said, and slowly, my eyes found my numb body underneath me, where my legs had been savagely cut off, while the rest of me was sitting on a makeshift stove. Jonas's mouth pricked into a starving grin. You're all we have left. 3. I hear knocking whenever it's nighttime. It was an old rental house, the kind where the floors creaked, no matter how careful you walked. Marissa had only lived there a week when the knocking started. The first night, it came at the front door. Knock, knock, knock. She peeked through the blinds, nobody. Just the empty street lit by a single flickering lamp. The second night, the knocking came again, only louder. When she checked the door this time, it stopped. But the moment she turned away, it started up at the back door. Same rhythm, same measured pace. Knock, knock, knock. By the third night, Marissa stopped looking. She stayed in bed, blankets pulled up to her chin, trying to convince herself it was some neighborhood kid playing pranks. But at 3:17 a.m., the knocking didn't come from the doors. It came from inside the house, the walls, the closet, the attic hatch above her bed. Always 3 knocks, patient and steady. She called the landlord the next morning, half embarrassed, half terrified. He was quiet for a long moment, then finally said, You've been hearing it too?" He told her the story. The last tenant had died in the house. No foul play, no break-in, they just stopped living. Found sitting upright in bed, as though they were waiting for someone to come in. The neighbors swore they used to hear knocking too, always at night. Marissa tried to brush it off as superstition, but that night, when the knocking returned, she whispered out loud, "What do you want?" For the first time, it answered, not in words, but in 4 slow, deliberate knocks from the inside of her bedroom door. 4. The Navly app. Delete the Navly app. I'm not fucking around. Delete it right now, before you finish reading this. I don't give a shit if you're in the middle of a trip. Pull over and delete it. I'm writing this at 4:47 a.m. because I can't sleep. Can't stop checking my windows. Can't stop hearing that notification sound. 3 weeks ago, everyone at work wouldn't shut up about Navly. It's like Waze had a baby with some military-grade GPS, they said. It knows routes Google doesn't even have mapped. Downloaded it on my lunch break. First week was perfect. Too perfect. Found shortcuts through my own neighborhood I'd never seen in 15 years of living here. The first glitch was so small I almost missed it. I was picking up pizza from Marco's, same place I'd been going since high school. Typed it in. Navly directed me 2 blocks over to this abandoned industrial complex. Windows blown out, walls tagged with graffiti from the 90 seconds. The loading dock had a tree growing through it. But on my screen, there it was. Marco's Pizzeria. 5 stars. Open until 11 p.m. I drove to the real Marco's. When I parked, I checked the app again. My blue dot sat at the right address, but the map still showed Marco's at that dead building. I screenshotted it BC. What the fuck, right? The timestamp on the screenshot says 8:43 p.m. But when I looked at it the next morning, it said 11:17 p.m. I know that's wrong. I know it. Few days later, driving through Old Town. The app says, turn right on Elm Street. My grandfather died on Elm Street in 1971, when they renamed it Kennedy Drive after the assassination. The street sign said Kennedy, but my phone showed Elm. Every street had its old name. Roosevelt Avenue was Main Street. The Memorial Park was labeled Coleman's Slaughterhouse. I pulled over and just scrolled around, my hands getting sweaty. The old Regal Cinema that burned down. When I was 12? There, in perfect detail. St. Mary's Hospital's psychiatric wing that they demolished after those patients died? Fully rendered. Even had little icons showing it was open 24 hours. That's when I noticed the reviews. The burned down cinema had a review from yesterday. Great prices, but the seats feel wet. Street? Mary's had one from this morning. They won't let me leave. The walls keep getting closer. My buddy told me to delete it. Said it was probably some ARG bullshit or a fucked up art project. Should have listened. Should have fucking listened. Last night, I was coming home from Sarah's place, taking the back roads because I-85 was backed up. Midnight, no other cars. Navly pinged a faster route. Left onto County Road 47. I'd had a few beers earlier. Sobered up by then, don't worry about it. So, I was just following directions on autopilot. The trees got thicker. My headlights kept catching these white shapes on the sides of the road. Thought they were mile markers at first. They were crosses. Old ones. Dozens of them. In 400 feet, crossed the Kensington Bridge. I knew that name. Everybody who grew up here knows that name. The 15th of June, 1982. The Kensington Bridge collapsed during a flood. The Brennan family, mom, dad, 3 kids, went into the water. They found the car 2 miles downstream. They only found 4 bodies. I slammed on brakes so hard my tires screamed. My headlights lit up the edge of nothing, just twisted metal barriers and a straight drop into black water 30 feet below. If I'd been going 5 miles faster. I sat there, shaking, engine running, staring at my phone. The blue line on the screen continued straight across the bridge that wasn't there. My dot sat at the edge, pulsing, waiting. Then I saw them, gray dots, dozens of them. One was on the bridge. Right in the middle, over the water. It had a name tag. Timothy Brennan, age 7. He was the one they never found. I zoomed out with trembling fingers. They were everywhere. Gray dots in places that didn't exist anymore. The collapsed mine shaft off Highway 19. The old foster house that burned with the family inside. The woods where they found those hikers back in '08. Each dot had a name. Each name had a date. Some of the dates were in the future. I threw the car in reverse and got the fuck out of there. But here's the thing. As I was backing up, my headlights swept across the road one more time. There were tire tracks in the dirt, fresh ones, leading straight off the edge. I made it home somehow. Hands wouldn't stop shaking. I sat in my driveway for 10 minutes before going inside because I noticed something else. There was a gray dot in my neighbor's house, right in their bedroom. It had been there for 3 days. The Walkers have been on vacation for 3 days. I called the cops, said I saw someone breaking in. They found Mr. Walker in his bedroom. Heart attack. Been there since the night they were supposed to leave. Never made their flight. Before I deleted the app, I had to look one more time. Had to see my house. My blue dot was in the kitchen. But there was a gray dot in my living room. It had my name, tomorrow's date, and there was another one behind me. This one didn't have a name yet. It was just following my blue dot around the house. Room to room, getting closer. I deleted everything. Factory reset. Threw my phone in the garage. But I can still hear it. That navigation voice. That cheerful fucking recalculating sound. It's coming from inside the walls. I went to check my laptop to write this, to warn everyone. Navly was already installed. I never downloaded it on my laptop. The map was open, zoomed in on my house. The gray dot with my name isn't in my living room anymore. It's in my bedroom. Timestamp, 5:03 a.m. It's 5:02. There's something at my door. It sounds wet, like it's been in the river for 40 years. The doorknob is Tur. Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well if you can.